Continuing with our thoughts of Pentecost, what occurred was God pouring out his Spirit on the believers. It was something that was expected. In fact, a crowd formed after this happened. The men were speaking in tongues, and people were laughing, saying, "Oh, they must be drunk." And Peter, when speaking to the crowd, he actually quotes Joel, and he says that God would pour out his Spirit in those days. In Luke 24, there was instruction given to the disciples. They were told to wait in the city till you have been clothed with power on high. So this was expected, and this was that day where this power was being poured out. They were receiving these gifts, this power. And now we focused on these gifts, but is that all of it? Is there anything else? And is that what's most important? In 1 Corinthians, which we've talked about a couple times today, in the first chapter of that, Paul says of the church in Corinth that they do not lack any spiritual gifts. So they have them all. That's good, right? They're all set. They're good to go. Well, just 2 chapters later, in chapter 3, Paul says of those same people that they do not live by the Spirit. He calls them worldly. He even goes as far to call them babies of Christ. So how could a group that's not lacking in spiritual gifts not be living by the Spirit? So how can we tell if we're living by the Spirit? If we have spiritual gifts, how can we tell if we are living by the Spirit? Well, Galatians gives us an idea of that. We have a little bit of a list. You look for love, joy, peace, patience. Some of you are with me. Kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. So the fruits of the Spirit, those would have also been poured out. And those living in the Spirit, those living a holy life, they would show those fruits. They would be living with a sound mind. Now, Paul didn't see this in Corinth. He wasn't seeing them live a holy life. And later on in the chapter, he helps them get there by training them how to use these gifts properly. I believe it's 12 through 14 where he spends his time doing that. But God calls us to a holy life. He has saved us from evil works, and he calls us to good works. Through the Spirit, through the fruits of the Spirit, we should have a sound mind to do those good works. Now, the Spirit is one of the 3 of the Trinity. The Father calls us to him. The Son died for us and saves us. And the Spirit draws us to Christ. In Revelation 22:17, and the Spirit and the bride say, "Come. And let him who hears say, Come. And let him who thirsts come. Whoever desires, let him take the water of life freely." So the Spirit and the bride together say, "Come." So the Father is our destination. It's where we want to go. The Son is the way to that destination. And the Spirit is the power that moves us to Christ. The power that motivates us to live a holy life. 1 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." We should focus first on having that sound mind. We should focus first on those fruits, making sure that we have love, the joy, the peace, and the others before we focus on our gifts.